Okay, let's see.
Okay.
All right, I think we can get started now. We're going to be expecting a few more participants, but I think we can get started. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm on the board. My name is Marley DiVirgilio, and I'm on the board at the Automotive Women's Alliance Foundation. This is an awesome foundation for those of you who may not know about it. It's a nonprofit organization that's geared towards helping empower women in the automotive industry, and in turn also giving scholarships to many women that are going through school right now before starting into their career, or that are in their career and that are continuing their education as well. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have Corey with us here, and we'll go through some things with her in a few minutes. But first, we just want to give a quick update. We have a few sponsors that we want to thank very much for all of their support. Magna, Forvia, NASCAR, Foley, Invisix, and Henkel. And then if we can go to the next slide, we're going to talk about just some of the upcoming events. We have our Pumps and Power event, which is coming up. That'll be with Telva, who's the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at GM. And the registration for this is open. October 4th, it'll be taking place from 5:30 to 7:30. If you remember last year's event, it was awesome, and we're expecting a great turnover for this event as well. So if you don't have your tickets ready, sign up for that. And then we also have another upcoming event in November. This will be at a private home of one of our AWAF members. And it's going to be focused on women in the workplace and harassment, which is also known as harrying. And that'll be something that'll be really nice and an intimate event, just to talk through, you know, what we've faced and some challenges that we've had and how we can overcome those. And then lastly, we have an upcoming event that'll be in Cantoro. That'll be our annual holiday affair event. And that'll be with Kristen Tabar, who's the VP of Toyota. And the registration for this will open in October. We may have another event coming up as well in November, and we're working on the details for that right now. So stay tuned, and excited to hopefully see some of you at future events. So with that, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Corey. Corey is awesome. She's really done a great job establishing her career so far today, and we want to take the time to just talk to her and get to know her better and go through her life's journey. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Corey. Can you hear us okay?
Thank you. Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. It's nice to virtually meet you all. As mentioned, I'm Corey DeFever. I currently work at Ford Motor Company as an ADAS system supervisor. If you're not familiar, that's Advanced Driver Assistance Systems. And I'm focused on diagnostics and connectivity. I've been at Ford a little over 10 years, so I'm excited. I'm going to talk you through my journey in a little bit. But outside of Ford, outside of engineering, some other things I'm very involved in are the Women of Ford ERG, employee resource group at Ford. That is our female-centric ERG, and I've been on the board for that for a couple of years, so that will come up in my story as well. And then outside of work, just a little bit about who I am. I'm currently pursuing an MBA, graduating in April. And when I'm not studying and I do have free time, I like to run, play with my dog. I'm a big crafter, so I do some sewing and quilting, you know, typical trivia with friends, that sort of thing. So being that the focus of M2Z is to connect young women working in mobility, I do want to leave a lot of time for questions and dialogue at the end, but I think it can be really helpful to see other people's stories, how they got to where they are. So that's what I'm going to start with, is sharing my story, how I ended up here as the ADAS Systems Supervisor for Diagnostics. And then I'll kind of point out some insights that I noticed as I was putting together my story for you all. So let me share my screen. I'm a very visual person, so I made a sort of timeline of my journey. Starting in 2011, I graduated from U of M in mechanical engineering and came straight to Ford. So I had interned at Ford as an undergrad, and after graduating, I joined the FCG college graduate program. Thank you. And I did that program for about 3 years before finding my home position as a body interior design and release engineer. So I was working on instrument panels, consoles, and in that role, it's very vehicle focused. So I worked on the Fusion and the Escape primarily, as well as a couple Lincoln vehicles. In 2018, I took a decent sized transition into the ADAS team. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about what that transition looked like, how I decided to make that, and then kind of the impact that I feel from that. And that has led me to a couple other roles within ADAS. So I was an ADAS systems engineer for a little over a year before probably actually 2 years before I got my promotion as the ADAS system supervisor for diagnostics. So it wouldn't be appropriate to talk about my engineering journey without mentioning some of my other journeys at Ford. So education is very important to me. I consider myself a lifelong learner. Outside of regimented school, I love to just learn new things. I mentioned bar trivia. I've nerdily studied like presidents just so I could get better at trivia, not because it has any use in my life at this point, knowing some of that history. But so I did my master's in mechanical engineering in 2012. I did it very quickly after graduating. I figured I was still in school mode and I kind of just wanted to check the box. I knew I was going to need a master's to make progress forward. So I did it very quickly. I'm going to talk a little bit about that decision and some ramifications of that as well. And then other education things, I mentor a FIRST robotics team through Ford. That's an amazing opportunity. It's not really my own education per se, but I've certainly learned a lot from working with high school students in developing their own engineering and project management skills. So I did that for 3 years. It got cut short because of COVID, and then I wasn't able to go back just because of time limitations in starting my MBA. So as mentioned, I'm doing that MBA right now. I'm happy to answer questions about that if there are any. I'm very excited to graduate in April. It's been a lot of fun, but it is a rigorous program and I look forward to having some free time again. So lastly, I want to talk about my Women of Ford story. So this, again, I'm going to talk a little bit about how this started, but in 2018, I started working with the Women in Product Development. They were going through a revitalization effort, and through some connections, I got pulled in, and that has led me to some amazing experiences at Ford. So I was connected with the International Women's Day leadership, and in 2020 and 2021, I was a main lead for the events. I co-led in 2020 and was fully responsible in 2021, and that has greatly expanded both my network of people at Ford and just my understanding of everything going on, how women are feeling, how not even just women are feeling, but really it's been great to have those experiences. And then as part of that, I was invited to be a member of the Women of Ford Board of Directors when they sort of reformed their organization in 2020. And through that, I've worked on several key initiatives at Ford, including increasing ratio of women, making Ford an employer of choice, really helping with events and connection and communication. I help lead the notifications that go out to our membership list of almost 10,000 people. So just looking at this, I did have an acronym decoder. I know that's a big problem we have at Ford in case that's helpful for anyone. But a couple of insights really came to mind. And the first one, it's a little bit nerdy and car focused, but it's turn off cruise control and be the driver of your own story. So as I looked through, I looked for areas where I really took the lead and chose to make a change. And you can see that is everything on the right of the screen. I think that is so critical. I think it's pretty obvious advice, but I think looking at my own story, I really didn't follow it for the first 6 years at Ford. I certainly, as I chose body interior, I chose to come to Ford, but it very much felt like I was choosing to do what people were telling me to do. I had mentors who said, well, this would be a good next role for you. And so I just did it. I was like, yep, that sounds like a great next role for me. Same with the master's in mechanical engineering. And I think that can be okay when you start at a company. You really want to, you know, coming out of college, you don't have any real world work experience. So just kind of buckling down and getting that experience. But it isn't until you take control that you see these amazing things happen. So talking about how some of those things came about, in 2018 is when I took that very major shift from body interior to ADAS. I'm not gonna lie, the company made it a little bit easy for me. There was a big corporate initiative to move people into areas of technology where we really needed to grow. And so Ford created an internal job fair, and that was so great because here I was thinking, I was looking at some of these job listings thinking, I'm not qualified to be an ADAS engineer. I don't understand electronics. I'm a mechanical engineer. But the company was telling me, we will make it work. We need people with Ford experience, people who have delivered programs at Ford, and we will help you gain the knowledge that you need to be successful in these new technology roles. So I took that transition. There were a couple other people in body interior that did the same. And looking back now, we have done some amazing things. Several other people that transitioned with me have been promoted within ADAS. And so I think it's really noteworthy to say, like, don't don't hold yourself back because you're concerned about the skill set. Is really just think about what you can bring to the table. And I think that's been a great opportunity for me. Following that choice, I've had an active role in each of my moves since then. So after doing that for 2 years, a colleague of mine got promoted and was forming his own team to do ADAS systems work for the next generation. And it really interested me. But again, I was hesitant that I wasn't going to have the right technical skill set, but I had a couple of conversations with him, expressed my interest, and we worked it out. And so I was able to join his team and even further grow my understanding of this technology that is such an exciting part of our future. And then lastly, my promotion to supervisor. I think it's important to share. I applied for 2 other supervisor roles before I found this one, and it was the right fit, right? So I applied, interviewed. I think they were great practice experiences. Obviously, I would have loved to have been in those roles as well, but it wasn't the right fit. And so I think once you decide you're ready, I think it's time to start doing that so other people can see that you think you're ready, and help you find the right fit. So once people knew that I was starting to look for these roles, other managers in the department were willing to start considering me for things that maybe I wouldn't have considered myself for, but able to recognize where my skills could fit in. So those were some key decisions I made in my engineering career. And I think even outside, so I chose to start mentoring FIRST Robotics because I just really wanted to get involved in STEM. And that actually led me to Women of Ford. So a friend of mine I met through robotics asked me, or I mentioned that I was really interested in being part of the women's ERG, and she said, I'm part of that, let me pull you in, like we are desperate for help. And so I was between the 2 jobs at the moment. I was transitioning still at Ford, but the new team wasn't quite ready for me. So I had a little extra free time and I was able to really dig into this effort. And it's, as I said, led me to these amazing experiences. So I know it's obvious advice to take control of your career, but I think really seeing how other people have done it is helpful. A couple other things is be wary about doing things to check the box. So this one is when I look back at my master's in mechanical engineering, I know I did that because I said, people told me you need a master's to get ahead. So I said, let me do it while I'm young, fresh out of school, and it seems like it'll be the easiest. But looking back at it, a mechanical engineering master's is not what I wish I had done. I wish I had diversified, gone into electrical engineering or CS or software. So I think because at the time I was just trying to get through it, I did certainly not the easy way out. It was on the easy master's, but I did what was most comfortable for me instead of pushing myself, really thinking about where my future could go. And if I had waited a couple of years, I might have realized where the company was going and where I could have really grown. So because I don't feel like doing another master's, now I'm kind of stuck. How do I get that knowledge without going to actual school? So it's not to say don't do a mechanical engineering master's. It's a very valuable thing. But for me, I just don't like how I went about the decision. So I think it's helpful to think through what you're doing and not doing it just to check a box. Building relationships, networking, I know it's not everyone's favorite thing, but I really wanted to focus on building relationships with intention. So most of the experiences that have come out of my network that are the most amazing aren't casual people I met at a networking event. They're people that I really grew to become friends with through working together on unique projects. So many of them are my Women of Ford colleagues, but just going to a Women of Ford networking event wouldn't have gotten me to the point that I am. I think it's just going and really finding areas where we can work together to create things and build that relationship have really led to these great experiences. And then be open about what you want to do, even with people that you wouldn't expect. This one I've noticed kind of recently. I had a friend who is a middle school teacher reach out to me and say, hey, I want to do a career pivot. Can you help me? And, you know, my first impression or my first reaction was, I'm an engineer. I don't think I can, I don't think I can find you a job at Ford as a middle school teacher. And then I took a step back, after that reaction and thought about it. And I ended up connecting her with like 3 or 4 other people. So through Ford, I knew recruiters, I knew people working in learning and development at Ford, which could be a great opportunity for her. So I'm so glad she asked, and I would never have thought about it if she hadn't. So I think that's really important. I've seen that at school as well. Making your desires known, you never know who's going to be able to help you. So the more people know what you're interested in doing, the more likely you are to find someone who can help you make that happen. And then last, this is so critical in technology right now, is always be learning and adapting. Within ADAS, I think we see things change constantly. New things are coming up, and there is always opportunity to get better technically, even in project management skills. So always being open to do that. It certainly can't guarantee that it will keep you in tech, but I think it's so critical that we are open to that. I mean, I'm interested myself. Once I finish the MBA, part of me wants to go and learn how to do some coding. I might take a little break first, but I think having that mindset can be so helpful in this changing tech world. So it's a lot of this feels like standard advice, but at the same time, when I look at it, I didn't always follow it. So I think it's important to reiterate. All right, that's sort of my story. I wanted to leave the rest of the time open for questions.
Yeah, thank you, Corey, so much.
Yes.
I appreciate everything. I think that you've had a great journey so far, and you touched on a lot of really cool things. I just want to address a few things, and then we're going to do a quick poll from the audience, and then we'll get into the Q&A. So you mentioned that you studied presidents in school. That's pretty cool. That's something you hear every day.
No, yes, I'm sorry. Maybe I misspoke that. So I study presidents now literally to get better at bar trivia, not because I have a good excuse. And it's certainly not my focus. But it is just, I think it's just an emphasis that I like to learn things. I think that's common in people working in tech. I don't think you can be in tech without being someone who likes to constantly learn and grow, but it's just a showcase that
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just making a few notes of some things I just really liked hearing that you were saying. when you were talking about working with high school students to develop and train them, it sounds like that was like a little bit like a while ago. And it sounds like since then, it's like all these opportunities have just grown and grown exponentially. And it goes back to just taking that first step. And it sounds like that's exactly what you did. And another thing too is like, the jobs that you've had and then getting into the Women of Ford and having all the connections with everyone and being able to, build all those things up to get to where you are today. I think that's something that's really important, and that hopefully some of the people on the call will recognize as an opportunity for their own growth too, is just take that step. We don't know what it's going to do, but without taking it, that's the best way to move forward. And we don't know what we would have missed out on if we didn't. So just wanted to mention that. And then before we get into the Q&A, I wanted to do a quick poll with the audience just to kind of gauge who's on the call. And then after that, we'll open it up. So there's a section that says polls on it. If you guys see that on the bottom of the screen. So if you want to just go and answer the question real quick, we can just go through them. Let me see. How far along in your career are you? Does it let you click that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So that's the first question. And the second question, what is your industry? So are you at a supplier or an OEM or somewhere else? And then where do you see yourself going in 5, 10, 15 years? Are you looking to get to the manager level? Are you looking to get to a director level, VP level, or are you trying to do your own thing and become an entrepreneur? Question 4, what are some of the hurdles that you're encountering in the industry right now? Is it management, trying to get through management, dealing with too many meetings, just too busy, personal challenges, maybe something that might be able to, you might feel that may be holding you back? Okay, that looks like it's kind of a mixed review on that one. If you're not a member of AWAF, what interested you in joining an organization like AWAF? Looks like the people that answered so far are already members. If you're not a member too, let me know if you have any interest in signing up. We have a lot of awesome group of women. And I know one thing Corey mentioned was networking and how maybe you don't get, exactly what you might need from it. I would say, like, I have met a few really good people from networking, but I think it's a matter of not just meeting them and shaking their hand and saying hi, but like building those relationships. And I feel like that's something that AWAF does, is it's like a more intimate group. So it's better to be able to have more access to all the people that, you would want to talk to and build a friendship with. And, even if you don't work together, just building like that common bond of, being a woman and dealing with all of the challenges that are faced in, automotive and just working together and whatnot. So, okay. If you are, let's see, what sort of support would benefit you in your career? Looks like a majority of people said coaching. Some said mentoring too. Yeah, those are two big things. Actually, AWAF has a coaching program, and it is a lot cheaper than going elsewhere for it too. So if you have any interest in that, I think that's online as well.
For that coaching, if you're a member, the deadline is this week to sign up. So take a look on the website.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So yeah, if you want to take a look at that too, they have it's like a 6-week or 6 course program, and it's like done over a year, maybe a little bit less than that. But basically you just meet with a coach for like an hour and just talk about, like, is there anything that you want to work on or improve? And, they'll walk you through it and kind of give you tips, or if they like notice certain things, like they can help you to get an idea, like what you could do to progress in whatever way you want to. Okay, and then the last question, what types of networking opportunities would be most beneficial? Most said in person, some said virtual, and then others said external to your company. So I think that's basically like why we wanted to have a mix too, because it is hard for everyone to get to events. So this is good to be able to do something, and at least it's like at a lunch hour too, so it's easier to not have to slip away. So okay, awesome. Well, that's good. I'm happy that we asked those questions. And now we will turn it over to Corey for the Q&A. So let's see if we can get some hands raised. Let's get some questions out there.
I have a question. This is Kim.
Hey, Kim.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Corey, you make me tired. I need to go take a nap. It's like,
I make
holy
myself
moly.
tired.
So you obviously have a really involved mentor or coach at Ford Motor Company that is helping facilitate your moves and your direction quickly. I know that you said, you've done a lot of it yourself. You've got to be your own driver. It's not cruise control. But do you happen to know who that person is? Number one. Number two, if you do, are you meeting with them regularly, or give us some insights?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have many mentors at Ford that have helped me in this journey. So that would be my first thing. It is not just one mentor. Particularly in making some of these transitions, the main mentors that I've worked with have been my direct management. And of course, I meet with them pretty regularly. So we talk about my career goals, and I know that they support me. But outside of that, it's not just them. Through Women of Ford and through just some of the other projects I've done, I've made amazing connections with some other mentors. It is primarily women. I've noticed this. It's not that I have an aversion to having male mentors. They've certainly helped me as well, but most of my mentors are women in the organizations that I've worked with that have just impressed me so much. I worked tirelessly to build that relationship with them. And I think something that I've noticed too is those mentors don't go away when you move on. I had one in body interior, and we were very close. And since moving to ADAS, I check in regularly. Of course, with COVID, I feel like everything has gotten weird, but it's been about 2 years since I had talked to her. And after recently, I had a post on LinkedIn, and she reached out, and we immediately reconnected. And I said, I might want your advice soon. Would you be willing to chat? And of course, the offer was still there. So I think all of those mentors, obviously, I wish I'd kept a little better in touch, but I think it's also important that they didn't go away. And if something's happened with you over COVID and you feel like you lost connection, it is never too late to bring that back. But yeah, I have had some amazing connections. Actually, my work in Women of Ford has helped me find better mentors in engineering, because I've connected so closely with some of the higher up women in ADAS that they just naturally we had worked together in Women of Ford. So when I joined ADAS, we already had that relationship. Even though they hadn't seen my technical engineering work, they had seen some of the work that I had been doing for Women of Ford product development. So wow. Yes, I have a lot of mentors, and I think it's so critical to have them.
So I have a follow-up question, and just real quick, how involved were your mom or your dad or your brothers, sisters in your journey?
Yeah, so my dad is an engineer at Ford. He's now retired, but it was certainly the inspiration to come to Ford in the first place and to go into engineering. So I took a different path, and I appreciate that for a couple of reasons. He was in manufacturing, and I went to product development, which at Ford, they're very different organizations. And the great thing was I felt like I was able to create my own personality without too many people knowing the relationship. It was certainly, my dad's a great guy, so when people did recognize, it was always a positive thing. But I never felt like, you only got here because of your dad, because it was completely separate since the departments were so different. But certainly inspired me there, and he's given some advice for sure to help support this. My brother, I have two brothers, but one of them and I work very closely together. He is just graduated from law school, so we both feel the pain of graduate degrees, and love to talk about that. Outside of that, I would really say, as much as I love my family, when it comes to needing advice about work things, I've created sort of an outside family that I go to probably more often, and that's from my network. So that's some friends who either have been at Ford or are currently at Ford, who I don't have to explain all the acronyms to them like I would my parents. They get it, but they're not so close that they are biased, or they don't have a stake in the game, so they can give me an outsider opinion. And that's been one of the great things with moving around and having that cross-functional network and the Women of Ford network as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. I see Charlene's hand is up.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Corey, for the presentation. I have a question. How far ahead would you say you plan your future? Because I see that you map the past, but not the future. And then the follow-up question will be, do you have a position in mind that this MBA you're taking now will take you to, or that you would want to apply?
Yeah, so that is a question I have been grappling with quite a bit the last couple months. All of my MBA colleagues are doing their recruiting and looking for their next full-time gig. I have no expectations to leave Ford, so I'm doing the same thing, but within Ford. And it's how can I really leverage this new skill set I have without losing what I have in ADAS? I love being an engineer. I love being so close to the technical, but I also want to take advantage of my MBA. And so for me, I've particularly been keeping an eye on strategy roles where I can understand the technology, but also make decisions about how to use that. In terms of like 5-10-year plan, as it's probably one of those things where it's like, do as I say, not as I do. I don't have a great 5-10-year plan. I've had to do this recently for school. My biggest thing is I want to be happy, and work-life balance is really important to me. And for that reason, I hesitate to say I want to be a VP, I want to be a CEO, because I don't know that that really is what I want if the lifestyle is not something that meets my needs. But I want to constantly be challenged, and the more I learn about Ford, the more I want to be making higher level decisions for the future of the company. So I do, in my future, I could probably give a couple year plan. I want to continue to progress at the company. I have been a people leader for a year now, and that's a skill that's really important to me. I really want to grow people and have those opportunities. So I like that opportunity. I want to stay there and hopefully move into management where I'm supporting that at even a higher level, helping other people to then develop their people would be great. So it's beyond that, it's so hard to say because the technology changes so much. I know there were roles that I wanted to do 5 years ago that don't even exist now. So that's a real struggle for me to put something down on paper and say, this is what I want to do, and then risk that it's gone. So yes, I do want to continue to move up within the company as long as it meets my needs as a person, because that is really important to me. And I think we're making the right choices to improve that at a high level. Yeah.
And yeah, thanks. I think it makes sense, right? You can't. It's better not to have exactly the same role mapped out, because it cannot happen or it can change as you mentioned. You know what you want to stand behind, and you know also what you want to aspire to. So thank you.
Exactly. A big focus for me is it's less about the specific role, but it's like, what are my values, and am I contributing to those values in my future roles? And hopefully that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, Corey, that's awesome that you mentioned the values and like what you're contributing to, and how you mentioned just to be like specific with, you know, your intentions. That's really good, because I think, you know, we all have so many different ideas of what direction we can go and what we can do, and to really like hone in on it and come up with a strategic game plan is really helpful. So it sounds like you do that in all the decisions that you make on a regular basis. So that's really good. I was going to ask a follow-up question to Charlene. What do you think like a good work-life balance would be for people in general? I know there's been a shift, it seems like, in the past few years after COVID, and then, you know, working from home, and people just kind of changing the perspective to where it's more like oriented towards, you know, different things than it used to be. So like, what would you say like a good work-life balance would be?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit easier for me to answer this question, I think, because I don't have a family. I should say a family that relies on me. I don't have children or a husband who are really dependent on me. So I'm able to make a lot of unique decisions for myself without that concern. But to me, it's really different to everyone, and finding a balance that works for them.
Yeah.
I would love to get to a point where I could leave every day for an hour and a half at lunch and go work out, make my lunch. We're not there yet. I think we try to be, but obviously when it's a global company, it's a little bit hard when you need to talk to someone and that's the end of their day. You don't want to hold them up. But for me, I don't know if I can really refine that down. I think I have a good balance now if I consider school as like part of my life, which is a choice I've made outside of my work. If the work hours I had now, I'm able to do the things I want to do. I have employees that work for me that I know work in the middle of the night because that's what they like.
Right.
They are night owls, and we've come to accept that as a team. And like, I'm very clear with my team that culturally, that is not something I expect from you, but if that's what works for you, that's fine for me too. As long as everybody you're emailing at 2 a.m. knows that they're not expected to reply at 2 a.m.
Right.
and doesn't feel like a lesser employee because they're not working that. But I think once we can get to a point where everyone kind of understands everyone else's work-life balance, it almost might be easier to then see those notes or see that someone's missing when you're hoping to have a meeting with them and be more accepting of it.
Yeah, 100%. I see we have a question from Sandra. Hey, Sandra.
Hey guys, how are you? Unfortunately, I'm at the gym. Trying to do 2 things at
That's
one
that
time.
work-life balance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I swim like 5 to 10 laps. I try to get like 5 to 10 laps a week at the LA Fitness. And I just didn't want to miss my Zoom, so I'm in the locker room. I just had a question. I am a supplier. It's so nice to meet you, Corey. You are awesome and amazing. How do you do all that you do? You're a superwoman. I am a supplier right now. I have my first product in Myers department store. I have windshield wipers and I have LED lights. I can supply the automotive industry with anything really. I'm looking to get my first deal because I'm opening up my manufacturing plant to supply jobs for returning citizens. It's actually cut down crime in our community like 75%. So I'm looking to get a deal, and I'm looking, Corey, to see if you can guide me to some buyers that will buy my wipers, buy my supplies, so that we can get this plant open. We can get the funds to get this plant open ASAP to help our community, our urban community.
Well, so I personally do not get to make any buyer decisions, but I do, through my network, have contacts in Ford purchasing, and I would be happy to connect you to someone who might be able to help give some guidance on what the next step would be.
Great. And should I send you my number, my email?
Yeah, that's fine. Feel free to reach out to me. I don't know, Marlana or Kim, if you guys were going to share my email or anything.
We can. It's up to you, Corey. Whatever you prefer. And then, yeah, if you guys want to just handle that separately, that sounds good.
We can put it in the chat box. Just put it in the chat.
Her email address. That'd be great. And then I'll chat.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Corey, I have another question I was thinking about. Until we get another hand raised, if someone else wants to raise their hand, one other thing that I was thinking about is, I seen that we had, a few men on the call, and I'm just wondering, do you have anything that you could see that would be advice maybe that like the men could help us with to be able to continue to progress our career or just try to break through any glass ceilings that we still have?
Yeah, an area that I've seen from my experiences is just the mentorship and the guidance is so critical. So I know I said I didn't have any specific male mentors, but I have had male managers who I know put my name in for things. But a lot of them didn't tell me that, and I almost wish that they had, right? I kind of wish they said, hey, I think you're great, and I'm gonna sponsor you and support you for roles. And I don't know if that's common, that they were just kind of flying under the radar, but I think there can be just this tension in the relationship at times, and just knowing that you're both there to support each other and like explicitly saying that and how you're going to be there to support each other can be so helpful. And I have had male peers in my role, other supervisors who have kind of asked me, how can they be supporting their female employees? It's like, talk to them, tell them you want to support them, ask them what they need.
Yeah.
So I think there's just this almost hesitancy to start having those conversations. And even just not just mentors, but I've had colleagues who I know have talked to my manager about how great of a job I did. And I think that's great to hear. My manager told me, but it would have been nice to hear too from the colleague directly. So it's just kind of, not that I need more people like tooting my horn, but it's just nice to know that they're in your court and that they're fighting for you. Because then, you know, this was someone who I had had pretty minimal interaction with, but to hear that he, through those interactions, was impressed by me, it's like, that's great. If I had known, maybe we could have started building a relationship on the side a little more quicker.
Right.
And then like, you know, he could come to me when he needed things. So I think that's the main thing, is just don't shy away from it and really just be explicit. Like, I'm here to support you. What do you need from me?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It looks like we have another hand raised. Let's see.
It was me.
Oh, you. Hey, Kim.
So I have a question. If you could follow someone around for, I'll call it a week, at Ford Motor Company that was on the senior level or board of directors, any idea who that might be?
Yeah, at this point, I'm very sure who it would be. There's two new, I would say, newer executives we've added to ADAS, Doug Field and Sammy, I think Omari. He's so new, I'm not positive on the last name, but they're new and they have very unique experiences coming from, I think one was from Apple, one had some startup experience. And I know at the level I'm at, I'm seeing the changes that they are proposing to make us a better tech company, but I'd love to see that happening at the high level. I can only see at this point really the downstream how it gets to me, but I'd love to understand how this is happening at a whole company level and see that. And then if I had to just pick someone else, I'd love to follow Lisa Drake around for a day. She's our COO, lead of Women of Ford. I think she's amazing, and I just would love to get more experience from her.
So are you going to ask her?
You know, I've never really thought about it.
Taking some of your advice.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Corey, what did you say her name was?
Lisa Drake.
Okay. She's, well, I have Lisa's an acquaintance of mine, and I have to agree with you. It would be, my gosh, outstanding to be able to follow her around for a week. The reason why I asked that is that Jack Nasser, who used to lead Ford Motor Company, was very specific in putting women in key roles at Ford Motor Company. Now, a lot of those women have left, but what a great, as Alan Mullally told me when I was talking with him, the worst that can happen is the answer is no, and that just means not yet.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think it's an amazing idea and I should reach out and try to do that. So
I'll help you if you want help.
thank you.
Awesome. What other questions do we have? Anyone we haven't heard from yet?
People are shy.
I know.
Either that or they're so overwhelmed with what Corey does that they're like, oh my God, what do we do? I feel
Well,
like
I'm
this
not,
big,
I
you
am not
know?
shy. I'm not shy at all. And I'm hoping to meet Lisa Drake. My name is Sandra Mack. I would love to meet her. I would love to talk to her.
Yeah, she's we AWAF had her as a holiday speaker a couple of years ago, unfortunately during COVID, but we managed to pull it off and she was remarkable. You know, and she does like Corey was saying, that balance between work and play, it's also very important to her. So it is important in your role to have that work-life balance. So Corey, kudos to you to try and keep it all together. I think after you get your MBA.
It'll be so much easier then.
You say
Yeah.
that, but watch what you
You're
say.
right. I
Right.
know. I'll sign up for more things than I should. I tend to overcommit, but it's led to so many amazing things. So
It really has. Yeah. You have
Yeah.
such a great track record too. I was just looking back at the poll since I didn't see any other hands come up. I was just looking back at the poll and I see, you know, we asked people where we see their career going, you know, a good amount of people said manager as the next step or as the current step and just staying in that role. And then a lot of people said director too. So what do you think your advice would be for getting into either of those roles? I know we went through some of the advice, but is there anything you can think about that really you think people would benefit from doing?
taking a minute to think about that.
Yeah, take your time. Yeah.
I think at this point, it's really just something that Doug Field mentioned recently to us is think about how the work you're doing really works towards the high level company goals. And I think it's so easy day to day to be doing something because you've been asked to do it or because it's how you've always been doing it. But then when you step back and look, it's like, was I really contributing to this giant technology company we're trying to create? Or was I just churning on some old process that doesn't suit us anymore? And I think it's the people that can kind of recognize that and make a difference in how we're working and what we're doing and know where to prioritize and where to say no that I see as being the most successful. So based on what I'm seeing and how other people are moving about the company, that's what I notice as really leading to progress. And being someone, this one's really hard for me, who is able to hold other people accountable. And it's without being mean, being firm. And
Right.
I balance that because I have a lot of trouble. I'm worried I'm going to come across mean. And so I'm maybe too nice. And the people that I see in leadership, they can still be nice, but they get stuff done. And so
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, an area
100%.
I'm personally working on, so I could see it being important for others as they are in their career journeys.
Yeah, it's all about a balance. You know, you don't want to come off too harsh, but at the same time, you got to get the job done. So at what level can you do that and still maintain a solid relationship without hurting it? So
Exactly.
yeah. Well, awesome. One other thing I can think of, do we have any other questions? Okay, I'll do this one and then if there's anything else, then let me know. And if not, then we'll start to get ready to close. So another poll question that came in, what are some hurdles you encounter in your industry? A majority of people said management, and then a few other people said too many meetings. And then a few other responses too. So, you know, looking at management and looking at too many meetings, what would you say would be some tactics or ways you can think of that would help to overcome those hurdles?
Yeah, well, I certainly experienced the same hurdles in my own job. I actually talked to my manager about one of those today, as I have too many meetings and I can't get the work done.
Right.
And that's step one, because immediately he said, stop going to this meeting. It's not your priority.
Right.
And it's helpful to have someone else say that. And I think it's important to be able to prioritize for yourself, but there comes a point where having your manager on board with what you're not prioritizing is really important. So I think from a management bureaucracy perspective, that's a little bit harder. I think we've all felt that. The bigger the company, it seems the bigger the problem with that. And we see it now. We're certainly doing everything we can to try and work on that at Ford, but it's still a concern. So I'm not sure I have a ton of suggestions on that. I think that's where having good mentors near your organization can help, is having people that you have a strong enough relationship with that you can share that feedback. So if you're uncomfortable, if your manager and your direct manager above that are part of the problem, I shouldn't say part of the problem, but if that's part of the bureaucracy you're facing, it's really having those other people that you feel comfortable sharing with, that that feedback will get somewhere.
Yeah, definitely agreed. I actually see we have two other hands that went up, Charlene and Kim. So if we want to
Go
get
Charlene.
Oh, Charlene. Okay, perfect. And then after we do that, then we'll close this up. So Charlene.
I do have a question though.
Okay.
But go to Charlene first.
Okay, perfect. Hey, Charlene.
Thank you. So another question, do you have any tips for doing your best in your current role while also trying to focus on networking, personal development for potential next role? And yeah, kind of like on the balance, I would say, again, on the workday versus networking. I'm also part of, for instance, of a professional women network, and making sure that you spend the right time at the set your priorities correctly.
Yeah, it's a problem I have faced myself. I know when I was planning International Women's Day, it felt like I spent my entire work day doing that. And I was very uncomfortable with the fact that I was not doing my engineering role for a couple of weeks. But I think, at least at Ford, I feel like we have management understanding that these things are important. Most of my Women at Ford work, that happens in my workday. And admittedly, there are times when I have to do a little bit extra at night, but I'm so passionate about the project that I'm willing to do it, right? If your management doesn't see value in things like this that are corporate initiatives, that's a concern. And I would raise that both within your management structure and with the ERG itself. Like when we have, one of the things we hear a lot from Women at Ford members is finding the time to go to our events. And so we work as an ERG with leadership to kind of share that, so our leadership can make that a priority for employees. We have DEI objectives now that every employee has objectives for that. And so we're really encouraged to participate. In terms of development, I think this is where I struggle, because I do think if this is something you want to do and take a change, I can justify myself at least putting a little extra time in outside of my workday if I need to, if I'm really trying to make a major pivot. This is where it has helped me that so much of my network is within Ford, and I'm building those relationships without even really feeling like it's extra work. As I'm doing this Women at Ford work, I'm making these strong connections. And then when the time comes to learn about those roles, the relationship is already there. I'm not working to build the relationship, I'm just learning about the role. So I don't know if that fully answered the question. Any follow up?
No, it does. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'll just do mine real quick. So you're extremely successful, highly educated, poised, speak well, involved, technically astute. How do you deal with the green-eyed monster syndrome at Ford? Meaning there are people out there that are probably very jealous of you. How do you manage that?
Well, unfortunately, I think I have the imposter syndrome where I'm going to refuse to believe that. So it's really not been a problem for me. But you know, I honestly, I see it in myself, which I think is so funny. I, you know, see other very successful women and I'm like, how did you get where you are? And why am I not there? And so I guess the really only thing I can say is that I step back and I look at where I'm at and I'm so happy, and I really have to stop focusing on other people. It's a big problem with my MBA right now because everyone's recruiting for these jobs and it feels this peer pressure that I should be going into consulting. And then I think, I don't want to do that. Why do I feel this way? I don't want that job at all. And so I think it's something we probably all face. And just really just giving yourself the grace to kind of remind yourself why you are where you are. And if that's not where you want to be, that's different. But if you're happy, try not to focus on other people.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, great. Well, we will go ahead and wrap up. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to any of us here. And we will be in touch with you, but hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining, and we will talk to you later.
Corey, you're awesome. Thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you. You guys are so kind.
Thanks so much, Corey. You rock.
Thank you, Corey.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
You're very welcome. That was pretty amazing.
Thank you.
Letting yourself tell it like it is. It takes some guts. So good for you. Bye, Debbie.
Bye, everyone.
Hi, Elizabeth. Wow, great people. Great people. So it's good. So did Marlena drop off already?
I think she might have.
She must have.
I just wanted to see I just wanted your email address. You're probably waiting on me because I raised my hand, right?
Oh, we put it in the chat.
We put it in the
Oh,
chat.
did you do? Okay,
Mhm.
let me see if I
Yeah.
got it. Hold on. In the chat.
Yeah. It's in there.
Oh boy.
If you don't see, I'll email it to you.
Yeah.
And get
Okay,
off.
thank you. Thanks,
Okay.
guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks. So, Corey, again, great job. I'm so happy that you said yes. And I love the statement that you made, and I'm wondering if I can swipe it from you to put it in my signature. And that is, turn off cruise control and be your own driver. That you should patent that, or I don't know what. I mean, it is something that makes a lot of sense, and I think is a good message to women like yourself, and then other women that are up and coming. I think it's just awesome. It's brilliant.
Well, thank you. I felt super cheesy. I was like, oh, I'm saying this
No,
because
not
I
at
work at a
all.
car company.
It's not cheesy, so don't worry
No.
about that. I'll work with Marlena. We'll definitely send you an official thank you letter, but I just wanted to stay on for a minute and, thank you very much. And there is an open invitation that if you ever want to become part of AWAF, or even consider a position, on the board or on the committees, I would love for you to join the organization and be a part of what we're trying to do in terms of moving it forward and attracting, younger people. So that's an open invitation.
Great, thank you.
Of which we'll probably end up sending you a letter that says you have a membership for a year. So
that sounds great.
We'll take care of that. But hopefully,
well, thank you very much for having me. It was a great experience. It's certainly, I'm not a big public speaker, but it's good to kind of ease into it. And I think it went well.
It went really well. Yeah, no.
Really, really well. So I wanted to say thank you personally. So I hope you have a great day. I wish you all the best in the education endeavors. I will raise my hand and say, if you need some help with the MBA, let me know. I've done it, been there, done it. And I even thought about a PhD and I went, okay, no, hit your head against the wall, no more.
Yeah.
No more. Stop. But I think it's great that Ford is recognizing your strengths, and I wish you all the best, and we will stay in touch with you.
Thank you. That sounds great. It was great to meet you ladies.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
You have a wonderful day today.
You too. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.